from self, offshoot of her, who to becoming leads, to stop all that. The perfect path the Aryan he taught. The knotted bonds long buried in my life, fixed up about me for so many years. The Buddha loosed and threw 'em off from me, and every poison canker cleaned away. Raṭṭhapāla. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Raṭṭhapāla. He was reborn in this Buddha age in the country of the Kurus, in the township of Thullakoṭṭhika, as the son of a councillor named Raṭṭhapāla, and was called by his family name. Brought up in a large establishment of retainers, he was united, when adolescent, to a suitable wife, and enjoyed a prosperity resembling that of the devas. Now the Exalted One, touring in the Kuru country, came to Thullakoṭṭhika, and Raṭṭhapāla went to hear him teach. Receiving faith, he with great difficulty obtained his parents' leave to renounce the world. Going to the Lord, he received initiation into monkhood from a bhikkhu at the Lord's command, and studying diligently developed insight and won arahantship. Upon that he obtained permission to visit his parents, and went to Thullakoṭṭhika, going from house to house for alms. At his father's house he obtained rancid gruel, but ate it as if it were ambrosia. Invited by his father, he went next day to his home. And when the ladies in fine dresses asked him, "What are the celestial nymphs like, my lord, for whose sake you live the holy life?" he taught them the path in connection with impermanence, etc., repulsing their insinuating conduct. See the tricked-out puppet shape, a mass of sores, a mass diseased, and full of many purposes and plans, and yet in whom there is no power to persist. See the tricked-out form, bejeweled, ringed, sheathed in bones and skinny envelope, by help of gear made fine and fair to see. Feet dyed with lac, with rouge the lips besmeared. All good enough for dull wit of a fool, but not for him who seeks the beyond. The locks in eightfold plaits, eyes fringed with black. All good enough for dull wit of a fool, but not for him who seeks the beyond. Like a collirium pot, brand new, embossed. The body foul within is boldly decked. All good enough for dull wit of a fool, but not for him who seeks the beyond. The trapper set his trap. The deer came not. Against the net. We've eaten of the bait. Let's go. The wild deer trappers make lament. Broken is the hunter's trap. The deer came not. Against the net. We've eaten of the bait. Let's go. The wild deer catchers weep and wail. Raṭṭhapāla upon that went through the air to the antelope park of King Kuru, and seated himself on a stone slab. Now the Thera's father had had bolts put on his 7 doors, and had sent men to prevent him from getting out, and to take off his yellow robes and clothe him in white. Hence the Thera's going through the air. Then the king, hearing where he was seated, went to him, and with courteous greeting asked him thus: "Master Raṭṭhapāla, in this world men renounce it for some kind of misfortune, illness, loss of king, wealth or family. But you who have suffered no such thing, why have you left the world?" Then the Thera replied, "The world passes away, is transient. The world is without refuge or providence. The world has no stronghold. The world is wanting and destitute, dissatisfied, the slave of craving." Thus showing his separate condition, he recited a parallel in verse. Men of much wealth I see in the world. Riches acquiring they err in not giving. Make out of greed a great hoard of their wealth. Yes, yearning, craving yet after ever more pleasures. The king having forcibly conquered the earth, to the shore of the ocean, holding the land. this side of the sea, may yet all unsatisfied crave after the further side also. See where both king and full many another man, nursing their cravings, come to their dying. Paupers becoming, they put off this body, for never content in pleasures of this world. Relatives bewail him with hair dishevelled, crying, "Alas! Would our relative were immortal." Him in his shroud enveloped they bear away. Raising a pyre, they forthwith cremate him. He lies burning, by forks being prodded, clad in one garment, stripped of all riches. Never to one who is dying a family, refuge, nor friends, no, nor even neighbors. His wealth is annexed by his heirs, but the being goes according to all his past actions. Never did wealth follow after the dying, nor children, nor wife, nor wealth, nor a kingdom. Never is long life gotten through riches, nor is old age ever banished by property. Brief is this life, all the sages have told us. Transient it is, and essentially changing. All feel the touch, both the poor and the wealthy. Touched is the wise man no less than the fool. But the fool, overcome down by his folly, lies prostrate. The wise man, when feeling the touch, never trembles. For that reason far better than riches is wisdom, by which we arrive even here at the terminus. For from not reaching the goal the dull-minded work wicked deeds in delusion, reborn, in spheres whether high or whether of no account. Comes a man to the womb and in other worlds finds rebirth, being caught in sasara, in rounds of countless many previous lives. Him one of little wit follows believing, comes to birth both here and in other worlds. Even as a thief who is taken in burglary, by his own act is condemned as a criminal, so is the race, after death, in another world, by its own doing condemned as a criminal. For by the charm, sweet and many, of sense desire, one way or other the mind is unbalanced, and seeing the evil in sensuous pleasures. Therefore, O king, have I gone all forsaking. Fall as fruit from the tree all the sons of men, youthful and aged, when breaks down the body. This too seeing, O king, have I gone forth. Better the safe, sure life of religion. Full of high confidence I left the world, and joined the monk's order of the conqueror. Blameless my going forth has been, and free from debt I live on my allotted share, looking on sense desires as fire lit up, on gold and silver as a noxious knife, on life from entry in the womb with sorrow, and on the fearsome peril of the hells. Seeing, I say, great evils everywhere. Because of that was I with anguish much obsessed. Then to me, pierced and wounded as I was, came fourfold victory, over sense desires, over rebirth, error, ignorance, victory. The Lord has my loyalty and love, and all the Buddha's teaching has been done. Lo, have I laid the heavy load I wore. Cause for rebirth is found in me no more. The good for which I gave the world farewell, and left the home to live where home was not, that highest good have I accomplished, and every bond and chain is destroyed. Then the Thera, having thus taught the path to King Kauravya, went back to the Lord. And he thereafter, in the assembly of the Aryans, declared Raṭṭhapāla foremost of those who had left the world through faith. Thera Malankya's son. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Malankya's son. The story of this venerable one is given in chapter 6, in which the Thera, established in arahantship, uttered a saying by way of teaching his family about the path. But in this poem the Thera, non yet an arahant, had asked the Lord for doctrine in brief, and he received this response. What think you, Malunkia's son? Things which you have never seen, heard, smelt, tasted, touched, or perceived, of which you have no present impression, nor of which you wish you might have sensations and perception. Do you feel desire, or longing, or fondness for them? No, Lord. Hear, then, Malunkia's son, when you do get any sensation or perception of things, you will have just the sensations or perceptions only. And inasmuch as this is so, and you will get no greed, ill will, or illusion by that, or in that, either here or elsewhere, or hereafter, this, even this, is the end of pain. And Malunkia's son, showing how well he had learnt that doctrine so summarized, expressed it in these verses. Sight of fair shape bewildering lucid thought, if one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in the sight. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. Sound, bewildering lucid thought. If one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in the sight. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. Smell bewildering lucid thought. If one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in the sight. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. Taste bewildering lucid thought. If one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in the sight. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. Touch, bewildering lucid thought. If one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in the sight. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. Object, idea, bewildering lucid thought. If one but heed the image sweet and dear. The heart inflamed in feeling did overflow, and clinging stays. Thus in him do grow many emotions rooted in idea. Greed and aversion, and the heart of him did suffer grievously. Of him we say, thus heaping store of pain and suffering. Far from Nibbana. He who for things he sees passion breeds not, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he sees, Raṭṭhapāla he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is Nibbana. He who for things he hears no passion breeds, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he hears, Raṭṭhapāla he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is nibbana. He who for things he smells no passion breeds, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he smells, so parthalai he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is nibbana. He who for things he tastes no passion breeds, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he tastes, so parthalai he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is nibbana. He who for things touched no passion breeds, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he is touched, so parthalai he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is nibbana. He who for things felted no passion breeds, but mindful, clear of head, can make sense. With uninflamed heart, nor staying clings. And as he did perceive, so parthalai he feels. For him no heaping up, but minishing. Thus did he heedfully pursue his way. Of him, building no store of sorrow, we say. Near is nibbana. Then the Thera rose, saluted the Lord and departed, not long after developing insight that he won arahantship. Thera Sela. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sela. Reborn in this Buddha age, in Anguttharapa, in a Brahmin family, at the Brahmin village of Apana, he was named Sela. And he lived there when adult, proficient in the 3 Vedas and in Brahmin arts, teaching mantras to Brahmin youths. Now at that time the Lord, leaving Savathi, toured in Anguttharapa with bhikkhus. And divining the maturity of insight in Sela and his pupils, he halted at a certain wood. Then Kenya, the ascetic, having invited the Lord and his band for the following day, made preparation of much food. And Sela with his visited the hermitage and asked, "What now, Kenya, is a minister of the king expected?" And so on. Kenya replied, "I have invited the Buddha, the Exalted One, for tomorrow." Now Sela, thrilled with joyful enthusiasm at the word, Buddha, sought out the Lord straightway with his youths, and after exchange of courtesies seated himself at one side. Meditating the Exalted One, he thought, "He has all the marks of one who is either a world emperor, or a Buddha rolling back the veil of the world. Yet I know not whether this religious ascetic be a Buddha or not. But I have heard that they who are exalted ones, arahants, Buddhas supreme, reveal themselves when their praises are uttered. For one who is not such a Buddha, when someone in his presence praises the virtues of a Buddha, is irritated and dissatisfied, because he has not won the serene confidence of Buddhas, and cannot endure the illusions. What if I were now to praise the Samana Gotama to his face with suitable verses?" So he began. "O you of perfect form and beauty rare, of fairest parts and lovely to see, Exalted One, your color like fine gold, you valiant spirit, with the dazzling teeth, whose body shows the features that betray the man of perfectly adjusted parts. Yes, all the traits that mark the Superman. You with the eyes so clear, your composure so fair, broad, straight, majestic, you do shine. As did the sun, the center you of all. The chosen band of monks gathered round. You bhikkhu noble of aspect, whose skin resembles gold, say, what is hermit's life? To you with presence so supremely fair. A prince you do deserve to be, a bull, drawing the chariot of the world's empire. Lord of the earth from end to end foursquare. A conqueror, of Jambudvipa chief. Nobles and wealthy lords your vassals be. You sovereign lord of lords, you king of men. Take you your power, O Gautama, and reign. Then the Exalted One, fulfilling Sela's wish, replied. A king, O Sela, verily am I. King of the path, above me there is none. And by my doctrine do I turn the wheel. Of sovereignty, wheel irreversible. Single quote. Then Sela to win confirmation spoke again. Wholly enlightened you do own yourself. King of the path, above me there is none. And by my doctrine do I turn the wheel. Of sovereignty, so you say, Gautama. Who is the general of my lord the king? Disciple following in the Lord's steps. Who after his example turns the wheel? Now the venerable Sariputta was seated at the right of the Exalted One, his head shining in beauty like a pile of gold. And showing him the Exalted One said, the wheel I set a-going of the path, above which, Sela, there is none, that wheel. Did Sariputta after my example turn? Who has become like Tathagata? All that which should be known is known by me. All culture of the mind, that have I did. Whatever should be renounced I have renounced. Hence, Brahman, am I Buddha, one awakened. Subdue your doubts regarding me, Brahman. Have faith in me. Hard it is to win. Repeated seeing, as you mayest now, of them who rise on earth Buddhas supreme. And it is of such whose advent in the world is difficult and rare, that I in truth am one, O Brahman. Yes, a Buddha I. Surgeon and healer, over whom there's none. Supreme my place and past compare my work. In crushing the assaults of Mara's hosts. All that is hostile lease under my sway. And I rejoice for from nowhere comes fear. Single quote. Then Sela the Brahman, so convinced by the Exalted One as to wish to take monks' orders, said, now pay good heed, sirs, to the words that he who sees, healer and great one, speaks to us. Impressive as a forest lion's roar. Supreme in place and past compare in work. Who crushes the assaults of Mara's hosts? Who that has seen him would not feel convinced? And were he never so obscure of birth? He who is glad for me may follow me. And whosoever is not glad may go his way. But I will in this rule renounce the world. Under him who is so noble and so wise. Single quote. Then the Brahman youths also, because they had attained to the requisite conditions, replied, if to your judgment, sir, this rule of him, the Supreme Buddha, did commend itself, we too will in that rule renounce the world. Under him who is so noble and so wise. Single quote. Then Sela, delighted because those youths shared in his resolve, showed him to the Lord and asked for initiation into monkhood. These thrice 100 Brahmins with clasped hands beseech you, O Exalted One, that we may lead the holy life beneath your eye. Then the Exalted One, inasmuch as in past ages Sela, as teacher of just those, had sown the root of merit, and now in the last life had produced both his own insight and their maturity, discerned that they were ripe for initiation into monkhood and said, well, Sela, is the holy life is set forth. Clear to be seen and heard. Swift is the fruit, in which not futile is the coming forth. For one who earnestly did train himself. Single quote. Upon that the Exalted One said, Come you, bhikkhus. And they, by his mystic power gifted with the robes and bowl of bhikkhus of long standing, did obeisance and began their studies for insight, attaining arahantship on the 7th day. Because of that they came to the Lord and declared Anna thus, Sela speaking. Lo! You who see all, it is 8 days since we came and refuge found. In just one night. Exalted One. We are trained in your rule. You are Buddha. Our Lord you. And you. The mighty seer who overthrew Mara. You who all evil tendencies have cleaned. And crossed the flood of life's eternal sea. It is you who help the sons of men to cross. You have transcended every cause of birth. And shattered every poison growth within. You even as a lion, grasping nothing, have banished every source of fear and dread. 300 bhikkhus lo! Before you stand, with clasped hands outstretched to honor you. Stretch forth your feet, O Lord. Allow them, the arahants, to salute you. Theravada, son of Kali. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Badia, son of Kali of the goddess. Reborn in this Buddha age at Kapilavatthu in a clan of Sakyan Rajas, he was named Badia. And when adult, he left the world together with Anuruddha and the other 4 nobles, while the Lord was staying at the mango grove of Anupiya. And entering the monk's order, he won arahantship. Him. As the result of a primeval vow and efforts on his part. The Lord in conclave at Jeta Grove, ranked as the best among those bhikkhus who were of aristocratic birth. And he, living in the bliss of fruition, in the bliss of nibbana, while in the forest, beneath a tree, in any lonely spot, was ever breathing forth the exclamation, Ah! What happiness! Ah! What happiness! Now bhikkhus hearing him told the Lord. To whom Badia, when summoned, admitted the habit, adding, Formerly, Lord, when I was ruling my principality, I was well provided with protection, yet even so I was ever fearful, nervous, distrustful. But now that I have renounced all, I am no longer in that state. And before the Lord he uttered his lion's roar, thus. What delicate gear was mine to wear when riding on my elephants? What elegant treatment was mine to eat, prepared by a from rice and flesh? Today a happy winner, being pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. In thrown off rags attired, and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. Seeking his daily alms and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. In triple robe, no more, and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. Taking each house in turn, and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. With one good meal a day, and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. Eating from bowl alone and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing, lives Badia, the goddess son. Refusing after meals and remaining pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Living in the lonely woods and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Sheltered by shade of tree and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Under open sky, unsheltered, remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Living in the charnel fields and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Seated no matter where and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Resting in sitting posture, remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Simple and few his wants and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. With mind content, serene, and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Secluded, much alone and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Detached, aloof from men and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. With surging energy and remaining. Pleased with what scraps his bowl is filled. In meditation, grasping nothing. Lives Badia, the goddess son. Renouncing costly vessels created. In gold and lac, this earthen bowl. I grasped, and thus the second time. Anointment's consecration won. Guarded by lofty circling walls. And mighty gates with watchtowers high. And men at arms with sword in hand. So was I wont in dread to live. Today a happy winner, see. At ease, all fear and fright removed. In forest meditation plunged lives Badia the goddess son. Firm planted on the moral code, in clarity and insight trained, in due succession have I won release with every bond, gone.